And welcome to the second part of this video series, Accelerating AI with Continuous Delivery. Now, as said, in this part, we're going to be building and training a model using the online platform Kaggle. So, when training a model, data is really important. Now, in our case, we're going to be detecting cats and dogs. So having good data is really important. There are repositories online that kind of give you existing datasets. In our case, we're going to be using a dataset called Oxford Free T Pets Dataset. Now, this dataset already contains over 7,000 images of cats and dogs that also have namings to them. Now, model training, how it works. So we need to split our data into two parts for training and validation. Now, this kind of looks as this image represents it. Now we have inputs, so our inputs are basically images of cats and dogs. And we need to split this into two parts, into the training part and the validation part. Now, why do we do this? So we do this because when we want to test the successfulness of our model in the end, we need to have data that hasn't been used on that model. Because if we would use all the data for training, then this would basically mean that our model will always be 100% successful. And that is why we split it into two parts. Now, usually a good ratio is 80-20, but you can kinda adjust that to your needs. Now, in our case, we'll be using 80% of the data for training and 20% of the data for validation. Now, in the end of this, we kind of check the successfulness of our model, and this is like those 95% that we've talked about or above that we kind of want to strive for. Now, basically, we've gone through the theory, and let's have a look at that cats and dogs model training example on Kaggle. Once you've created a Kaggle account, make sure to do a few things first. Now, you need to verify your account. So go into your profile and into settings. The phone verification needs to be set to verified. Now, you can easily verify your account by entering your phone number. You'll receive a code and you need to enter it afterwards. This is crucial to proceed. So please do that before proceeding. Now, when we land on this page, the link is located down below. Now, this is a pre-prepared notebook which you can use. So Kaggle is an online platform where you can basically run your code and test it out. Now, this is a model that you can copy into your own account. So just click on this button over here, and then this will get copied into your own account, and then you can fine tune it and test it out. Now, this is my copy of the existing version. And before proceeding, what you need to do is you need to go into session options. Now, this is a tab located here on the right, and you need to select the internet on option. Now, this will only be available as a setting if you verify your account. So make sure you do that. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the code in this model over here. So as said, we are using an existing model. So the existing model is called ResNet34. It's pre-trained on the existing dataset, and this dataset contains 100,000 images across 200 different classes. And what we're going to do is we're going to fine-tune it with our Oxford Free Pets Dataset model that contains 7,000 images of dogs and cats. So this is the process that we've been talking about. So we do data preparation first, fine-tuning afterwards, evaluation, and testing in the end how our model works. The data set contains 7,000 pictures of dogs and cats of different breeds. Now, what's important here is that cat images start with uppercase file names and dog images start with lowercase file names. Now, what does this actually mean? So this is a process called labeling, and we use this in the end when we are evaluating the successfulness of our models. Now, from files, we need to quickly know whether a file represents a cat or a dog in order to test our model out. And you need this labeling part to be as simple as possible. Now, when checking the file name, in this case, if it's uppercase, we know that it's a cat. If it's lowercase, we know that it's a dog. And this is a really simple thing to implement. So make sure when you do labeling that you do it as simple as possible. Now let's go into the data preparation phase. Now, in this part, you can see that we already have some code written, and we'll do a deep dive into the code in our next lesson. But here, what we basically do is we basically just load the training and validation data sets from the images that we already have. And you can run each part of this notebook by clicking on the play button. Now, it takes some time to do this. So in this case, I won't be pressing the play button because I already have the results. And in the end, what you'll get as a first result is a set of images. Now you can see this part over here. You can set it how much images you want to show. Now this number over here represents the number of images that we have and how many rows we want. And you can see the existing results. So you're going to get true for a cat and false if it's a dog. And in this case, you can see that most of these are correct. Now in the next phase, what we do is we fine tune it. Now what we do here is basically we specialize the model to return true on cats and false on dogs. And in the end, what we get is this little thing over here. So these are our results. We basically get the error rate, and this is something that we need to know in order to see how successful our model is. Now, in the next part, we do a few metrics. So what we want to do is we want to show the results and basically in the end see if these are okay. Now you can see that Fast AI uses the validation set in the data loader itself, and we kind of show the results of the model and view a thing called the confusion matrix. Now what is this confusion matrix over here? This basically tells us, so this line over here, the diagonal line, these are all okay. This means that our predictions, whether something is a cat or a dog, are okay. But this part over here, so these are the ones that have missed. These are basically, so you can see here over here, true, false, this section. So these are false positives and true negatives. Now these are the ones that we want to eliminate in our model training. So this is basically the number of predictions that aren't okay. And we can plot these. So in the next one, this next section, if you run it, you're going to get images that were incorrectly predicted. Now in this first one over here, you can actually see that this is basically, I think, a cat that has kind of rolled into some form and it's hard to detect. In this case, it's an animal in a bucket and it's kind of hard to predict it. And this is a cat that basically doesn't have any fur, so it can also be incorrectly classified. Now, you can use this code to plot your top losses, which means that you will get the results which were incorrectly predicted, and then you can fine-tune the model itself. Now, the last part of this notebook basically contains code that is going to test our model by using images from the internet. And in this case, we have like 2 images over here that we test on, and when we run it, we get the results if the probability is of a cat or a dog. So in the end, probability it's a cat, the first one is false, the second one is true. Now you can add any images over here and test it out on your own. So the Kaggle notebook is like really super useful if you want to try things out online and kind of run them and see the results instantaneously. You can also play with this code out and kind of fine tune it to your own needs and see if you can improve the end model results. And this is basically it for the Kaggle platform. So we've gone through the basics of this notebook. Make sure you try it out. Now that we've used the Kaggle platform to train our model, what's next? So we're going to be doing this locally in the next part of this video series. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code or any other editor you prefer to download this code, use it locally, and kinda also explain the parts behind it. So we're going to check the code for our cats and dogs model in detail and run it locally on our machine. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and see you next time.